You ever notice how everyone talks about financial freedom like it's some mystical bullshit that only happens to trust fund kids and crypto bros who got lucky? And you're just sitting there on a Wednesday night with your phone calculator open. Maybe there's wine involved, trying to figure out if you can actually quit the job that makes you want to fake your own death every Monday morning. And nobody, like literally nobody, ever just tells you the actual number. Like, what is the dollar amount where you stop feeling like you're one car repair away from a complete meltdown? I'm Sophia. I'm not a financial advisor or any of that. Obviously, talk to a professional about your specific situation. But I need to tell you about $75,000 because this number changed everything for me. And I'm kind of pissed nobody explained it this way sooner. 75 grand. That's it. That's the number sitting in your savings and investment accounts combined, where everything shifts. And I can already hear some of you being like, Sophia, I have $600 saved, and you're making me want to throw my phone. But wait, stay with me. Because understanding why this number matters is actually the thing that helps you get there. And I promise I'm going somewhere with this. Here's what $75,000 actually means in real life. Not in some LinkedIn influencer's caption with a sunset background. It means you have options, like real, actual options, not the fake kind where you're choosing between staying miserable or being homeless. Because nobody tells you this when you're young and broke and wondering why you can't seem to get anywhere. Financial freedom isn't about being rich. It's about having enough money that you can make decisions without that sick stomach feeling. Without having to stay somewhere that's killing you because you literally cannot afford to leave. Okay, so let me break down what 75K actually buys you. And I'm getting specific here because vague finance advice is useless. First, it's roughly 3 to 6 months of expenses for most people, depending on where you live and how much you're spending. If you're spending like $4,000 to $5,000 a month on rent, car payment, groceries, those Target runs that somehow always hit $200, even though you went in for toothpaste, student loans, all of it, then 75 grand covers over a year of your life. A full year where you could tell your nightmare boss exactly where to shove it and figure out your next move without moving back in with your parents. But it's not just about the quitting fantasy we're all having during those meetings that absolutely should have been an email. It's about the small, everyday choices that add up to a completely different life. Your car breaks down and needs $2,000 in repairs? You're annoyed, but you're not spiraling. You're not putting it on a credit card and then paying interest on your transmission for the next 8 months. You just fix it and move on with your life. Your friend's getting married across the country and you actually want to go? You can book the flight without doing 3 weeks of mental gymnastics and budget spreadsheets about whether you can afford it. And here's the thing that really gets me fired up. $75,000 saved means you can start taking the risks that actually matter. You can go back to school if that's your thing. You can start that business you've been talking about in the group chat for literally 4 years. You can take a lower-paying job doing something you don't hate because you're not living paycheck to paycheck anymore. You have a cushion. You have room to breathe. You can bet on yourself without it being this terrifying jump-off-a-cliff situation where if it doesn't work out, you're completely screwed. Now I know what you're thinking. Sophia, how the hell am I supposed to save $75,000 when I can barely save $75? And look, I get it. The math feels impossible when you're starting from basically nothing. But here's the thing that changed everything for me, and I wish someone had just said this plainly years ago. You're not saving $75,000 in 1 year. You're building it over time. And the key is that this money needs to be working for you, not just rotting in a checking account earning basically nothing. This is where investing comes in. And don't leave. I'm not about to drown you in stock market bro nonsense that makes you want to close the tab and pretend this conversation never happened. When I say $75,000 saved, I mean money in a mix of places. Some should be in a high-yield savings account for actual emergencies, the stuff you might need to grab quickly. But a big chunk needs to be invested, probably in something boring like index funds through your retirement accounts or a regular brokerage account. because that's how you get compound interest to do the actual heavy lifting instead of you white-knuckling it alone. Here's an example that makes sense. Let's say you put away $500 a month. I know that might sound like a lot, and maybe you can't swing that right this second, but just follow the math. If you're investing that $500 monthly in something averaging like 7% returns a year, which is pretty normal for a basic index fund over the long haul, you'd hit $75,000 in about 9 years. 9 years. That's not overnight, but it's also not forever. That's you at 34 if you start at 25. That's you at 43 if you start at 34. And if you can do more than 500, or you throw your tax refund at it, or you get a bonus, you get there faster. But here's the part that makes me genuinely excited about this specific number. $75,000 is the turning point, where your money starts making more money than you're personally adding to it. Like you're still contributing, obviously, but the growth from your investments starts catching up and then overtaking what you're putting in. That's when it stops feeling like you're pushing a boulder uphill while wearing roller skates and starts feeling like you finally have some actual momentum. And that feeling, that shift, it changes everything about how you think about your future. Because once you have $75K working for you, getting to $150,000 feels possible instead of insane. Getting to $300,000 starts to feel real. And suddenly, retirement isn't this dark joke you make at brunch about how you'll probably die at your desk. It's an actual plan. Financial freedom stops being this thing that only happens to other people and becomes something you can actually see yourself reaching in 10 or 15 years. Now let's talk about what $75,000 saved does not mean, because I need you to be realistic here. It does not mean you're rich. It does not mean you can quit working and move to Bali forever. It does not mean you never have to think about money again. What it means is you've built yourself a foundation that most people never get to. And from that foundation, you can actually start building wealth instead of just surviving month to month. You can start making choices that move you forward instead of just keeping you from drowning. And honestly, the biggest thing $75,000 gives you is peace. Not like total enlightenment peace, but the kind where you're not lying awake at 3 a.m. doing panic math about what happens if you lose your job tomorrow. The kind where you can say no to things that don't serve you without it feeling like you're committing financial suicide. The kind where you can actually think about what you want your life to look like instead of just reacting to whatever disaster is currently on fire. So here's what I need you to do, and I'm being completely serious. Sit down this week, like actually block out 30 minutes on your calendar and figure out what your $75,000 plan looks like. How much can you realistically save each month, right now? Even if it's $50, that's a start and it counts. Where is that money going? Are you just letting it sit in checking, where you'll accidentally spend it on delivery and stuff you don't even remember buying? Or are you moving it somewhere intentional? Do you have retirement accounts set up? Are you taking advantage of employer match if your job offers it? Because that's literally free money, and if you're not taking it, you're leaving money on the table. And then, this is the big one, decide that you're the kind of person who gets to have $75,000 saved. Because I'm telling you, the biggest thing standing between you and this number isn't the math. It's the story you're telling yourself about whether you're the type of person who deserves that kind of security. And you are. You absolutely are. It's just going to take some time and some discipline, and probably saying no to stuff you want right now, so you can say yes to the future version of yourself who has options. You deserve to have choices. You deserve to make decisions based on what you actually want, not just what you can barely afford in this exact moment while holding your breath. And $75,000 saved is the number that makes that possible. So start building toward it. Start today. Start this week. Start whenever you finish watching this. Because 10 years from now, you're either going to be sitting on that cushion of freedom or you're going to be wishing you'd started today. And I really want you to be the person who started.